Peace, peace, and welcome. We're glad you're here. This is the Cook on Monday Morning podcast. I am here with the homie, one of the most important founders of our generation.
Wow, I don't know about that.
My man, Chris Bennett.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. At Cook on Monday Morning, we believe that if you own Monday morning, you can own the week. If you own the week, you can own the year. And if you change your year, you can change your life. So I met Chris at a wedding.
Yes, this is true.
In Atlanta.
Yes, this was a good wedding.
Yeah. With the homie Jared.
Yes.
Jared Jenkins.
Shout out to Jared and Kim. Jared, what's going on?
And their daughter.
Congratulations.
And 2 minutes into talking to you, we started arguing.
That sounds right. I have point of views.
Yeah. You got opinions.
I have opinions.
That should never be shared.
Yeah, exactly.
In polite company.
Yeah.
Do you remember the argument?
I think there was a song on, and I didn't like the song, or I didn't really understand why people liked the song so much.
There was it was an R&B group. That's one of the greatest groups
of all time.
It's probably the greatest R&B group to ever exist.
Yeah, probably.
And then you completely craft on their legacy.
Who was it?
Jodeci.
What song was it? Everyone was going crazy over Jodeci. Why do people like this song? It's not a good song.
No, it's the group. It doesn't matter, bro.
Yeah, I don't get it. I can't believe I'm saying this on camera.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah,
what is this hate of Jodeci? Who is this man? Yeah. Who invited Chris Bennett?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, but you started to tell me about the story of your company. I wanted to get into Wonderschool.
Okay.
I wanted to get into your upbringing.
Cool.
And we'll talk about Honduras.
Cool. Okay.
Whatever the case may be. So what is Wonderschool?
So Wonderschool is a way for individuals to start high quality early childhood education programs out of their homes. And it's a way for parents to find them. So it's a marketplace for parents and individuals who want to start these programs. And I'm originally from Miami, Florida. My parents are from Honduras. Mm-hmm. And my parents really, really valued education and were really focused on making sure my sister and I got access to high quality early childhood education. Mm-hmm. And my sister went to an in-home program when we were kids in Miami, and I would go to this program for after school care when I was a kid. And when I was out here in the Bay Area, I started to hear from all of these folks that were having a hard time finding childcare. Mm-hmm. And I asked folks why didn't they consider in-home options? And what I kept hearing was that, the programs, the directors who were running them needed support from a business standpoint, needed support selling themselves. And we thought, what if we could solve this problem by building software and services to help these individuals operate their programs in a high quality manner. Mm-hmm. And so we started the company in 2016. Mm-hmm. We rented a home in the Berkeley Hills and hired a teacher and learned everything we could about starting and operating one of these businesses. And now today we have, hundreds all over the country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, talk a little bit more about the problem of finding childcare, what that looks like in the Bay Area.
Yeah, so finding childcare in the Bay Area is pretty stressful. The way folks typically go about it is they go to their social networks. So they ask their friends, they ask people in their community, what's a good school? But typically when they go and visit those schools are full. And so getting into the school of choice is actually pretty stressful. And so the next step after that is you go to Google and you type in preschool near me. And same thing. You go visit schools. The best ones are typically full. And after that, you essentially just repeat that process as much as possible. Some people will even resort to walking down the street, driving around neighborhoods in the middle of the day, looking for kids with adults walking, going to playgrounds, and asking those teachers if they have open spots. And so that's what people do today.
And so you told me the story about like how this idea, I know you noticed the problem, but you talked about a conversation you had when this idea like finally started to materialize at TED.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that moment? And
I met this woman named Laura Jana, and I was sitting next to her at a social justice dinner. And at TED, there's a certain night where there's just all these different dinners, and you can pick a dinner of choice. And at the time, I was running a social commerce company, and I was like, I'm really interested in social justice. It's like sort of like this like thing this thread that I'm just like always thinking about. And I was like, let me go to this dinner. And I sit next to this woman, Laura, and she's telling me about the importance of preschool. And I'd never really heard that before. I never thought preschool was important. And she was explaining that a lot of the things that I use as a leader today, a lot of the skills that I use today, I most likely learned in preschool. Concepts, like just the way to interact with people, how to persuade people. A lot of the skills I use as a CEO today, I likely learned in preschool. And I thought that was actually pretty surprising. So I called my mom afterwards. I was like, Mom, where did I go to preschool? Like, can you remind me? And it turns out that I was in daycare or childcare from a really young age, as early as maybe like 4 or 5 months, because my mom and my dad had to work. And my mom felt so terrible about it because she wanted to be home with me. But I don't think what she realizes is that it's been really, valuable for me as a way to interact with people and navigate, being in all of these new environments. And then she told me that I went to this incredible preschool when I was 2.5. It's called the Lab School. And the Lab School is part of the Miami-Dade Community College, and it's one of the best schools in Florida. And I went there when I was a kid, and she was just going on about how great of a school it was and how, I learned a ton there. And so thinking back to what Laura was saying, it was like, it turns out I actually had an incredible education before the age of 5. And it's not something you remember. You're too young to remember that. So you have to sort of go to a parent to remind you about that. So yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, that is dope. So you started in Berkeley. You have hundreds of Wonderschools operating across the country. And I've seen some of the news reports of the rounds that you've raised. Is this your most successful venture today, Wonderschool?
Yeah, in terms of, so, yeah.
Can you talk about what the journey has been like trying to raise money? Because like you're one of the few Black founders that is doing this well, and more can. And I'm sure you can get into that, like with the ability for more to do it, or just people to do it in general.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about what that process has been like for you.
So the process of fundraising, the process of fundraising has been, I've been running companies for most of my life, and I didn't even know what fundraising was in college. I didn't know about it. I learned about it, when I moved here. When I was reading, before I moved here, I was reading TechCrunch, and I kept hearing about all these people raising money. I was like, well, that's really cool. I didn't know you could raise money for a company. Tell me more about that. And so I moved here, and I moved here to learn about fundraising, and pretty much, it was really hard in the beginning. I raised, some money from 500 startups, some from some other funds. It was really hard to fundraise.
What was hard about it?
Fundraising.
Well, I should mention too, like before you went into this, you were in private equity.
Yeah.
And so you had kind of seen how deals were being formulated. And can you talk a little bit about that and how, if it helped or not?
I worked at a real estate private equity firm
in
Chicago. and I bought multifamily assets like residential properties, and our job was to buy it and flip it, turn it around, and then sell it. And that experience was sort of valuable. I learned a lot about working at like a larger company. I learned a lot about financial modeling. I learned about management. That was all really interesting. But they didn't really help me that much when it came to like starting a company. A lot of starting companies come from when I was a kid or when I was in college. I started multiple companies. And so that experience was probably the most valuable.
Okay.
But coming here for fundraising, fundraising was really confusing because there's things when you're fundraising, like to do well fundraising, you have to have a good company. And so having a good company is the hardest part. Figuring out how to build a company that builds sustainable revenue, that's able to build something that customers want, that's really, really difficult. And so that's what we spent a lot of time. I first focused on fundraising, couldn't raise money. Then I tried building something people wanted, and I couldn't do that. And so I couldn't fundraise. And then I started to learn that like one of the best proxies to figuring out if you've built something people want is you're growing. If you're growing, people want it. If you aren't growing, people don't want it. And so that was helpful proxy for me. So then I started to focus on growing my business. And then when I focused on growing the business, that's when fundraising became a lot easier. And so a lot of my belief when it comes to fundraising is just build a company that it's hard to get the money at first, but once you get it, build a company that's great. And the way you figure that out is you have to talk to a lot of people who can tell you whether your company is doing well or not. Is it growing fast enough? Is it growing the right way? And then you use that information to inform how to make it better. And then when it's going really well, you go fundraise.
Yeah. I mean, I think the interesting thing about the company that you're building, is that there is a gaping problem around like access to high quality preschool, and it's people's babies, like more important than any dollar amount,
Fact.
And so, talk a little bit more about the types of people that are teaching at Wonderschool, the type of training that they get, like type of response you're getting from families that are sending their kids.
Yeah. So the response we're getting is really high. We looked at our net promoter score just the other day.
And what's the net promoter score?
It's a proxy for the like if people like your product. You typically see it when you're using something and they ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this product to a friend? You see it whenever you're going through a lot of companies' experiences or at the end of like a customer service experience. And if you're a 9 or a 10, you're a promoter. If you're anything if you're between like a 5 and a 9, I don't know the exact numbers, you're passive. And then if you're below 5, you're a detractor. And you're likely someone who's going to say bad things about the company. And you want to have as many 9s as 10s as possible. We have a very high net promoter score for especially parents who are in our programs. Parents love the programs. Right. And we can't do a net promoter score on the children. They're too young. But yeah, people are really, really happy with Wonderschool. And that's something that we're really focused on, just making sure that the experience that parents and teachers have really strong. And when we find that the experience isn't strong, we do something about it. So we'll go in and sit down with the teacher and we'll either remove them from the platform or we will, we'll do something about it.
Okay. And there's also this this economic opportunity for the people that are teaching. Can you talk a little bit about?
Yeah, so teachers can earn significantly more than they could on their own. a preschool teacher in San Francisco earns about $35,000 to $40,000 a year. But with Wonderschool, you can earn a lot more than that. We have on average the directors are earning about 80,000, and then we have directors earning well north of that on the platform. And the idea is, we believe if we can increase how much someone's earning in early childhood education, that'll lead to more people wanting to become preschool teachers. And so if more people want to become preschool teachers, that will lead to us solving this problem of not having enough childcare for the children that are, in the US. And if it's high quality, we can have children will have a similar experience to the one I had, where they'll be able to fulfill their potential because they were able to get access to the right education before the age of 5.
Yeah. So much happens, and so there's a lot of research that points to the first 5 years of life.
Absolutely.
And how important that is to how we show up in our romantic relationships when we're older, like how we, our ability to attain new vocabulary, there's so much around our parents. And so it is a very important space to be in. I want to talk a little bit more about where you grew up and Honduras. So Miami has a lot of its own stories. When you told me you're from Honduras, I was like, yeah, they do got Black people in Honduras.
Yes. 1%.
Is it really? Is it that low?
It's really small.
Okay, because I feel like there was some other Central American countries that had a higher population, but Miami. What was your childhood like in Miami?
Man, it was really fun. So I'm one of 31 cousins.
Oh.
And so I have a really big family. Yeah, my family's so big that when I'm in Miami, I am hanging out in downtown Miami, I expect to see someone. It's that big.
Okay.
It's how you run into your friends from high school? I run into my family.
Oh, okay. 31 cousins.
31 first cousins.
How many? Damn. Okay,
yeah, my mom has 4 cousins, 3 sisters. My dad has 6 siblings, and then my grandparents each have 4 to 6 siblings.
Okay.
So I have and then they marry. It's just big.
Right.
And it's a big Honduran community. So yeah, growing up in Miami was fun. A lot of time with my family, potluck dinners, holidays together, and it was sort of imagine freshman year of college. That's what it's like coming to the United States. It's like everyone's just getting here, and they don't know how to navigate this place. And they all sort of came around the same time, so it's like you lean on each other to support each other on how to manage, get around and manage, living in the U.S.
Right. And
so, spent a lot of time with them, and then I had a lots of fun. I had a lot of friends in my neighborhood. Lots of went to, growing up in Miami, you're outdoors all the time. You're out on the water, going fishing, going boating. It's a really unique childhood because it's like a big playground. It's fun.
That's nice. So I'm wondering about if your family sort of took on that classic immigrant story, or if they were more so part of the fabric of the traditional Black community in the States. What was that? How would you respond to that? What was that like?
Yeah, so race in Miami was always very interesting because if you look at my family, there just on both sides, there's some people who could pass for white.
Okay.
Like my grandmother, it's always been a little confusing even within the family. Yeah, I have cousins who are white, first cousins. And so it's just
How?
like, so
Well, somebody's white in the family. It sounds like this.
My grandmother is on my dad's side, is of like Spanish and Indian descent.
Okay.
Like, and some of her children are incredibly light skinned.
Okay.
And then some of her children married very light skinned women, and their children are very light skinned. And so in that regard, they can pass for white. And so yeah, even within my family, there's always just like a little race was sort of present. And then within my neighborhood, so I actually grew up in the 50th most diverse zip code in America. And so my neighbor to the left was white, English descent, catty corner, white, English descent. Across the street, Haitian, black. To the other catty corner, Haitian, black. To the right, Cuban, like Latin. And actually the guy on the left was Cuban white. And so, and again, you're a kid, so you're just like, this is Miami. When you walk into someone's home, you don't know what the culture is. So you just have to follow the rule. Like what am I eating here? Do I take my shoes off? Do I keep them on? What language are we speaking? Does your mom understand me or no?
Right.
It's just like you're totally always having to switch. And there was in my neighborhood, I only knew of one African American family.
Okay.
Brandon's parents. But there were a lot of black families in my neighborhood, but they were all just different cultures.
Right.
It was primarily in high school. My high school was in an African American community.
Okay.
That there's this famous, I don't remember his name, famous politician who was running for something recently. He's from that neighborhood.
Andrew Gillum?
Yes. Yes.
Andrew, for governor?
Yes. Andrew is from a neighborhood called Richmond, Richmond Heights. And my high school is in Richmond Heights. And Richmond Heights is an African-American community, historically.
Right.
And so through that, through high school, I had a wide range of friends, and many of them being African American. But I honestly didn't learn. I learned the most about African American culture when I went to college.
Yeah,
and my family didn't make any sort of strides to my knowledge to sort of assimilate or to integrate into African American culture. It was much more Honduran culture. And yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So you speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Do you speak any other languages?
Nope, just Spanish.
Okay. And so what were some of the major lessons that your parents tried to instill in you? Any mantras that came up in the house? Or
It's so funny.
how many siblings do you have?
I have one sister.
Okay, one sister. Okay. Yeah.
Get good grades. Always get good grades. Don't get in trouble.
Okay.
Don't get in trouble at school. Don't get in trouble with cops. Don't talk back. Just defer. Don't get in trouble. I wasn't allowed to get in trouble.
Okay. How good were you at following the rules?
I was pretty good. I actually was good at. I was good at towing the line, I guess. I followed the rules, but yeah, I just didn't get in trouble.
Okay.
So that was a big thing for us when we were kids. Entrepreneurship is really big. My parents really didn't believe in. They were big believers in making your own money and earning your own way. So my mom worked at Bell South, the telecom company, and really wanted to quit all the time. And so she quit and started a tax preparation business. She started a perfume store. She started a grocery store. My dad worked, he pushed bags at the airport, and whenever they were always just quitting their jobs and starting businesses.
There you go.
Like always. Yeah. And so that's sort of the environment I grew up in.
Okay.
And it was a little scary as a kid because sometimes it didn't work. Like my mom's business, I remember my mom pulling me aside. She's like, "Chris, we're filing for bankruptcy." And I'm like, "Whoa." Like that's a big deal. You know?
How old were you when?
I don't remember. I was in high school, maybe in middle school. It's like, whoa, we're filing for bankruptcy? I don't even know what that means, but that doesn't sound good. But we're fine, you know? Like my mom's doing fine. And like that's like seeing those ups and downs were super valuable.
Yeah, it sounds like, you got like the way you describe your childhood, it really sounds beautiful and very, very diverse. And those are the types of lessons. Your kids seeing you build, have a setback and continue to build, like that's way more valuable, I think, than most of what we see in traditional school settings. So you sound like you were very fortunate.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. Where'd you go to college?
I went to University of Pennsylvania.
Okay, UPenn.
Yeah.
And so what was that? It's very different than Miami.
Yeah, very different.
It's Philly.
Oh man,
right?
Yeah, so different.
Yeah, and yeah, what was that transition like going to college?
It was really interesting because my parents didn't go to college, so they don't know what that transition was like. And I tell my friends sometimes, my parents just like said, "All right, well, we'll see you later," and I just got on the plane and I went to college. Like I showed up. Right, I got to figure this out. I can remember Target by myself with my own money, buying all this stuff, and like going to my dorm and seeing my friends. They have like an army of people supporting them in this move.
That's actually a lot like my college move, but yours is like,
oh really?
Yeah, but go ahead.
What was yours like?
I came by myself and I had scholarship money. I didn't but yeah, I had to I didn't have a way to get to Walmart to buy stuff. I didn't have a winter coat. I went to college in Massachusetts.
Yeah. Winter coats.
Yeah.
You're from here. It's similar because you go there and it's tricky.
But yeah, continue. So you got you by yourself. Did you have a lot of jobs in high school? Is that something you say you came with your own money? Well, or did you start
more like I had tons of scholarship money from University of Pennsylvania, but more like I had companies when I was in middle school, and I used my own money to pay for some of the things, just like my dorm room, like setting up my dorm room, but yeah, it was crazy. University of Pennsylvania is a great school. It's for America's wealthiest families. And I didn't really know what I was getting myself into until I showed up. But I loved it. It was really fun. I learned a lot, met a lot of great people. I was in the Wharton School and learned a lot about, finance, real estate, economics. I started my own company there. I made a lot of friends that I'm still friends with today. And so it was great.
So you got your MBA there, or is that what you said?
Undergrad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do any more school after college? Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Are you also invested in real estate? Is that something you do, or you just kind of pay attention to? Okay. Do you invest in other companies? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
What is sort of your philosophy around investment for other businesses?
Investing in companies is super interesting because the best companies look super stupid. They look so stupid. They make no sense.
Okay.
At first.
Like, what's an example?
I mean, one of the best companies I'm invested in right now is one of my close friends' companies. It's It's a cryptocurrency bank.
Okay. Oh yeah, you are big into crypto.
Yeah.
I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a
Continue.
cryptocurrency bank, and I just didn't think it made a lot of sense at the time. But he's a really smart guy. He's one of the smartest people I know. And so it's like, he actually had to like, I actually wasn't going to invest. He had to more convince me to invest. He's one of my close friends, and it might end up being my best investment ever. So that's how I invest. It's like I just hang out with people in San Francisco
Okay.
and build relationships with people. And when they're ready to start their company, I ask to be able to be a part of it.
Yeah.
That's I don't really go out looking for deals.
Got it.
And that's how I invest today.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that standard doesn't sound like that rigorous.
No, it's not rigorous at all.
But I know people who choose probably do very rigorous standards before they put money into you, right?
Well, they did, but I didn't know anybody. You know, like if I try to raise a round today, if I was starting a company today, I don't know if it would be that hard because I have relationships. But when I moved here, I knew 3 people. I remember meeting with an investor, and he liked me. He's like, "Who do you know that I know?" I'm like, "I don't know anyone you know. I cold emailed you. I don't know you." And he didn't invest.
Right.
And so the way, and I think that's another reason why it's really hard to break into Silicon Valley, because it's all based on relationships. It's like LA. It's your network.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to Prosper about you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Prosper's one of our investors.
He told me.
Yeah.
And and so I know that you sort of made your entry in the meeting a lot of people out here, and
You guys went to the same college, right?
we did.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Very serious. Very rigorous.
His kids, do you follow him? I follow him on Facebook.
Okay.
And his kids are so smart.
Yeah. His kids were at the Jerry Rice event.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. His kids are, the way he's parenting is very admirable. It's inspiring. I just learn a lot just by watching him. I definitely want to, I aspire to be as good of a dad as he is. Yeah.
Nah, yeah. His kid in the Jerry Rice at the live event was talking about being the only black kid on this hockey team. And he started the question. He was like, I like going fast on the ice. And Jerry Rice was like, "Would you challenging me to a race on the ice?"
Jerry.
And he was like, "No."
Do you want to race?
Are you into sports? Are you big into sports?
Yeah, I follow a lot of sports.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a low key, because San Francisco is not the most sports leaning place, but I have some investors who are big into sports, so it's made me feel a little bit more fine about. But I love sports. Sports are incredible. It's public competition. It's public competition. It's like it's the best.
So you like watching competitions?
For sure. Yeah. I love, because it's the psychology, the preparation, the big stage. It's just incredible.
Yeah. I got too emotionally invested in sports teams.
Oh yeah, the Niners. Are you a Niners fan?
Well, I mean, by birth, yeah. But not by choice. I don't watch a lot of the Bay Area sports teams because of how emotionally wrapped up I get in these game outcomes. So
do you just follow it afterwards? You just look at the scores?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just don't. I'd rather just not, pay attention.
Oh, wow. Why do you get so emotionally wrapped up?
I don't know. That's why it's so confusing to me too. Like I hate the fact that I do. And
that's interesting.
And every time I really get wrapped up in watching, like they lose. Like, the Warriors lost. Well, I was in Kenya, staying up late to watch the finals, and they got beat by the Raptors.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I completely relate. It's tough.
Yeah. So so I know you're big in that. We talked a lot about books. And one of the things I like about you is it's like, you have you're kind of unassuming in how you come off, but then you kind of like get to know you a little bit, and it's just like all this information.
Oh, really? I come off as unassuming.
Just like kind of down to earth, and you wouldn't know like how much money have you raised for Wonderschool?
$35 million.
Yeah, so like you raised $35 million.
I'm not wearing Gucci.
You kind of look like a tech founder out here. Like,
I've been like this my whole life. In high school, in middle school. I don't know.
Yeah, it's levels. Like, you got to get past that onion, bro. I'm trying to get into that onion today. And so, we were talking about, we talked about books, and I'm trying to remember the title of the one that we spoke about over breakfast one day. But what are some of the really impactful books that you've read? Like, what are the first that come to mind?
Yeah, the first one is Outliers. It's my favorite book. Okay. I love this book so much. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. People, it's controversial. There's people who don't like it.
10,000 hours.
10,000 hours. The I don't know. There's so many underlying things to success that we don't see. And that book helped me sort of decode success a little bit and gave me a lot of confidence in being able to do a lot of things. And so after reading that book, I actually quit my job working in, I didn't quit. I just let go of my job in private equity. But I ended up getting another job in private equity and decided to not take it because I didn't want to continue down that path. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, spent a year preparing for medical school and realized I didn't want to be a doctor. But if it weren't for that book, I would never thought I could be one. And it was just this idea of like, oh, Chris, like you can just do whatever you want. It's just not going to be, there's certain things I can't do. I can't become a basketball player. Just like I'm too old, not good enough, not tall enough. Like, and there's certain, and those things you sort of have to, cut out. But I could be a stockbroker. I could be the president. It's possible. And if you understand, the game to get there, then you can break it down. It's possible to actually achieve those things. And Outliers doesn't say that outright. I have this tendency of reading something and coming up with my own meaning from it. But that is sort of that was my big takeaway from it.
So what does getting there look like for Wonderschool?
So, we want to achieve our mission. We want to ensure every child has access to high quality early education to help them fulfill their potential. And so it's starting to happen. I'm starting to be at a party and it's like, oh, my kid goes to a Wonderschool. My co-founder's kid goes to a Wonderschool. I'm seeing on Twitter people sharing Wonderschool links. People are recommending Wonderschool. So yeah, we want to get to a point where Wonderschool is, a household name and just very normal. And we want to get to a point where, we live in a world where we all know that if we show up, if we go out, if I pressed a button right now, a car would show up and I'd get in the car and I'd get to my destination safely. And believe it or not, if I showed up in Mumbai, if I was in Sri Lanka, you would expect to press a button, get in a car, and you're going to get there safely. And it's like the problem solved. And so how do we get there with childcare? Where you have a kid.
They have it to me in Cairo, by the way.
You got it. They
got an Uber.
Yeah, they have multiple.
Yeah. But continue.
And it's almost become like it's like 3G. It's like you just expect it now. Like you expect to have AC. You expect to have electricity. If you don't have those things, it's like, what? That's what ride sharing is becoming. And we were here for the beginning of it. And I think we all can remember getting into our Lyft for the first time, and we were like the first ones.
Yeah. It took me a long time to actually make the leap because I kept hearing about Uber and Lyft, and I was like, I'm not doing no damn Uber and Lyft. And
what was your first experience getting into a Lyft?
I actually don't remember. I just remember as soon as I did it, I kept using it. And then and then my bill went up through the roof.
I remember I was walking out of a Wharton event with my friend Jerome, and Jerome's like, You're getting a cab? Who gets cabs still?
Right.
And I'm like sitting there trying to get a taxi, and then all of a sudden this car pulls up and he just hops in. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I gotta download this app.
Right.
And you're right. Once I got it, it was like I was hooked. I couldn't get off. That's what we want Wonderschool to be for childcare. You know, so we want it to be that you move to London and you just open up the Wonderschool app and you find childcare. You have a second kid, you open up the Wonderschool app and you find childcare. That's what we want to get to.
One more story about what got me doing rideshare, because any introduction to new technology, like San Francisco is a place where a lot of it gets tried out. The headquarters for both Uber and Lyft are in San Francisco, and I'm one of those natives that has an aversion to anything like all these tech companies and like devices and all this stuff kind of feeling like it's infiltrating the city. And I was talking to a friend of mine about doing like a silent protest of Uber and Lyft for those same reasons, like they're ruining our city. And it was a brother, and he was like, well, taxis never stop for me, so I mess with Uber.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like, damn.
That's true.
And that's when I downloaded the app.
That was like, I was like, oh, like, yeah. I never have to deal with someone just driving by me anymore. The other thing that got me really excited about it is, especially when you go to Chicago, it's like I remember everyone who's driving is a person of color. And I was like, oh, like this is great. It's creating all of these jobs for people. And it's controversial because they're not likely earning enough, or but I always tell people, like, there was a time when I couldn't get a job. Like I couldn't get a job.
Right.
Like I put in applications and no one would hire me.
Right.
And so how great is it that there's an option that we can all fall back on, where we can at least make some money. Yeah. And so, that's something I've always thought about.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's like the introduction of AB5 that's going to change a lot of the way the gig economy is operating. And a lot of gig work does employ people that, may need a second chance or may not be getting hired through the traditional route. And we have this congestion problem in the city that's kind of like off the hook. It's kind of like,
scooters.
Well, I mean, people had to, I guess, stop using the rideshare and start learning how to use. One of the reasons I stopped riding, I used to be a bicycle. Maybe we can like talk a little bit about San Francisco issues, and then
I would love to talk about this. This is great.
Okay. And then I want to let you get off to run your $35 million plus company.
Yeah.
So I stopped riding a bike because I used to be a bike commuter, because I had, I was like running for school board. I was trying to build this nonprofit, and I kept being absent-minded, thinking about whatever problem I was having as I was on my bike, And so you need to be very aware.
For sure.
In this
Market Street just closed, though. That's amazing.
That just happened.
It's amazing.
Well, let's get into some of the
so amazing.
the things that you enjoy right now, or the challenges that you think the city is facing.
Well, I just want to tell you that I love San Francisco.
Yeah.
San Francisco
me too.
is my favorite place. Okay. I'm like the biggest San Francisco fanboy. Okay. And my goal is to stay as long as possible. And I love this neighborhood. I love that I woke up, had some coffee, walked outside, got on a scooter, was here within 5 minutes.
Oh, you rode a scooter here?
I ride scooters everywhere.
Okay.
And I got here within 5 minutes. I know this neighborhood so well. And it just gets better and better. The more time I spend here, the happier I am to be here. The things that I like about the city right now, I really do like the scooters. I really like that. I like the new real estate that's going up. I went to go visit a director yesterday who started a preschool in 1190 Mission. Have you ever seen that building? The Trinity Towers.
Oh yeah.
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 And I was just going there. I'm like, wow, this is new. And then it's huge. All this new real estate. And I'm like, this is great. So I like that that's happening.
So you like the increased density and the high rises?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous because there's not enough space for people here, and we can build up. So that's one thing I really like.
Would you like it near you, or do you like it that it's like all the way?
I mean, it's one of those things. I don't want it near me, but I'm not going to stop it.
Yeah, that's the balance too, because I think that even in our neighborhood, there's a lot of opportunities to build, and I think the mood of the city is what does it look like and who's coming in,
Yeah, like this new building, the one right down here, Alchemy.
Yeah,
I started we had our second office there, and Alchemy is super expensive, and it's like all of a sudden VCs live in my neighborhood, and all these people who weren't living in my neighborhood before live in my neighborhood now.
Yeah,
it's not that bad. It's like but it's one of those things that's eventually going to come for you. It's like I have a pretty affordable apartment, I have a great apartment, but as this continues, I'm probably not going to be able to live there anymore. I'm probably going to have to move into one of these, high-rise buildings, and it's hard. It's what you can be selfish. It's like, hey, I don't want it to happen to me, but it's like, I think about this a lot at the company. What's the best thing for the company? And what's the best thing for the city? I don't know. They're figuring out a way for everyone to stay while also building more real estate, building more space.
Yeah. I think that's where the partnership and the policy has to come into play too, because if it gets built, it's just going to get sold to whoever can, pay the sticker price. That's kind of like the rules of, supply and demand, but we have a lot of opportunities to build with like certain communities in mind. And so all the conversation about like percentage of affordable housing or 100% affordable, or pathways to home ownership, how to re-engage like students to make San Francisco, or recent college graduates to make San Francisco home. Thinking about the public sector, like all these things are, I think, possible to accomplish and have been done here before, but we are just facing these challenges around like the cost of housing. Like all the recent reports and research show that this is the most expensive place to build in the country. And building an affordable housing unit here, it costs like $750,000
a unit.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
For an affordable unit. So yeah, I think
that's crazy.
This year, housing and homelessness are the big issues.
Yeah, because there's a flip side of it is homelessness. Yeah.
So, what makes you fanboy for San Francisco?
I don't know. I just love it. Yeah. I love, but I recognize it's complicated. It's super hard. I believe, being the mayor here is probably one of the hardest jobs, because you have so many different people you need to make happy who have completely different competing interests. And the trade-offs must be so hard, because every decision you make is going to make some people really happy and some people really upset.
Yeah.
And so it sounds very, very hard. I do not envy that position. But the weather, the people, the influx of amazing people, the food, improved transportation. There's things that need to improve, or they're pretty crappy. Diversity here is really, really poor. Homelessness issues, really sad. A lot of like my favorite places are going out of business. But I've also been fortunate enough to live in a lot of American cities. And I've traveled the whole world, you know? So I lived in Philadelphia, I lived in Chicago, I lived in Miami, spent time in tons of American cities. And when you think about San Francisco relative to a lot of places, that's when it bubbles up to the top for me. So and relative to other cities, it's by far the best in my opinion. But within the city, there's still a lot of problems.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I'm committed to solving them. I think that people that love the city should commit themselves to stay. So I appreciate you coming on and talking about, I think you share some important advice about, building a company. And I think that's going to inspire a lot of people of all backgrounds that want to achieve at least what you've achieved and go beyond that. I always wrap up the show talking about leadership and legacy. Do you have any guiding principles when it comes to leadership?
I'm still figuring that out, but the one I think about the most is sort of what's the image? Like what's an image that symbolizes the type of leader I want to be, at least. And the one that comes to mind is a picture of the sun. And then you look at the sun on like if you just go to Google and type in a photo of the sun, it looks a little different than what you realize. It's like it's orange. It's not really yellow. It's orange. Especially when you look at it in space, it's orange. It's fiery, but we all feed off of it, and
So you want to be God?
No, I don't want to be God.
I'm joking.
Nope. What else I like about the sun?
Source of life for everyone.
I want to empower people. I want to empower my team. I want to empower our teachers. I want to empower these parents. The other thing is consistent. The sun is always there. It's always there.
See, I knew this was going to get deeper as you went on. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Keep going. It is on time. Yeah.
It is consistent. It's reliable. That, and so I just think about that a lot.
There's no other layers to that.
There's probably more. But.
Okay. That was getting deep, bro. I like that. We got to talk more about that offline. Okay, and legacy. So I named my company after my great-grandfather, Luther Harris. It's called the Luther Harris Holding Company. Cool. He came into San Francisco, the city we both love. Cool. In 1947. Oh, cool. With a 6th grade education. Bought homes for him and all of his children. His legacy is important to me. This is his dictionary. Oh, whoa. And these are his wife's chairs. Oh, wow. Medea. We call her Medea. How do you think about legacy and your legacy?
It's a good question. Not something I've really spent a lot of time thinking about. But 2 things come to mind: my companies and my family. And so haven't started a family yet, but it's something that I hope to build a legacy with. And the companies I build, spend a lot of time thinking about building sustainable, long-lasting companies so that they continue to thrive even when I'm not in them.
Thank you, Chris Bennett.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
This is great. This has been fun.
Right on.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Peace. And thank you for listening to another Cook on Monday Morning. I'd like to thank Chris Bennett for coming out and telling us about Wonderschool, the journey that he's had building the company, the lessons he's learned, the inspirational text he's read, and what it means to model your leadership after the sun. That was dope. I really appreciate Chris, and I hope that you learned a lot listening to him. I'd like to thank the people that helped this podcast and put it on. I'd like to thank our videographer and producer, David Topete. I'd like to thank Fernando and Cinco Marquez for all of the editing he does for the podcast, the newsletter, I should say. I'd also like to thank Icy House. They provided some of the equipment for the show. And I'd like to thank all of you who have been sharing, following, helping build Cook on Monday Morning. This whole idea is about building. It's about seizing the day, building something special that can uplift and empower whoever is participating. Those people that are doing that are in places like Oakland, Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston. They're in New Orleans, Philadelphia, Miami, Detroit, Chicago, Milwaukee, Indianapolis. They're in Boston. They're in New Haven. Wherever you are, I appreciate you. And I want to get to know you. I want you to get to know me. You can reach out to me on Twitter. I am now also on Instagram. You can connect with me there. If you have any questions you want to email me, you can email me at info@estevancook.com. And finally, I just want to thank the people that make San Francisco the place that it is, the city that I'm in love with. And I think the people make it that. So I really want to end today's podcast by thanking our teachers, our first responders, our school lunch workers, the people that are on our custodial staff, people to keep our streets safe, and the folks that are doing direct service work to help folks that are really struggling. I really appreciate all of you. You make the city tick. It is what it is because of you, and this podcast is for you. Peace, and we out.